let's look at how American hegemony has declined. For a country, its national strategy should match its national strength. In theory, if the United States were infinitely powerful, they would not hesitate to subvert the regimes of every country in the world. The United States has fought 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan with the goal of overthrowing other sovereign states. For the United States, these 2 wars have led to relatively serious consequences. The United States is heavily in debt, the war debt expanded to the limit. The United States sending its own ground forces to invade and occupy another country is the Iraq-Afghanistan model. At the peak of American national strength, the Iraq-Afghanistan model could only be applied to 2 countries. In this model, not only does America need to spend a lot of money, but they also have to send their own troops and use their own weapons and equipment. It has a high demand for national strength and a huge consumption of national strength. It's not that the US doesn't want to copy this model to more countries, but their strength cannot keep up. If the war debt cannot be expanded, the war machine cannot be expanded. Many people think that the United States can now do the Iraq-Afghanistan model again. They do not understand war at all. These 2 wars stretched America's power and resources. Under such circumstances, the United States had to think of a less resource-intensive way to carry out its plan of subversion. That is why the United States invented the Libya model later. In the Libya model, the United States did not deploy ground forces or invade Libya. But America overthrew the Gaddafi regime by means of intervening and mobilizing the opposition to the Gaddafi regime, supporting the opposition and helping them expand rebel forces, instigating rebellion against the government. This model is efficient, but the loss is smaller than fighting a war. At the same time, the United States also instigated a series of color revolutions, subverting the regimes of many countries in the Middle East, including Ukraine. The United States had no obstacles along the way. The US wants to do the same in Syria by copying Libya model to overthrow the Syrian regime. But this time the US met with resistance from Iran and Russia. As a last resort, the United States openly nurtured and trained a number of armed forces that obeyed America. These armed forces became America's agents. These agents who were willing to fight for the US and Russia's agents fought a proxy war in Syria. And that is the Syria model of the United States subverting other countries. As a result, the Syria model failed. The defeat of America in Syria marks America's failure to control the Middle East. This is the status quo. Many people who are naive think that the US can still rule the world. This is a false perception caused by ignorance. The omnipotent superhegemony is long gone. After America was defeated in Syria, people in the Middle East are no longer afraid of America, they no longer take the United States seriously. And people realized that the United States had brought too many wars and disasters to the Middle East. So Iran took the lead in cleaning up the house. The house refers to the Middle East. Iran started cleaning the Americans out. Cleaning means killing, by the way. After that, other countries began the take your garbage out operation as well. North Korea and Iran, one in the east and one in the west, keep putting pressure on the United States and gradually drive American power out of their countries. This makes the United States suffer a great sense of humiliation. After all, Trump said America first. How could you treat America like garbage? What is the goal of putting pressure on the United States? It is to drive the United States crazy. Not surprisingly, Trump was unresilient, and he could not take it anymore. Then he made a bad move, which was assassinating Iran's General Soleimani. Who's Soleimani? He was the vice chairman of Iran's military commission, Iran's number 3 leader, and Trump just assassinated him. To sum up, the general goal of the United States is always the same: to oppress the other countries in the world and make them his slaves. But his power and means have gone down all the way. At the peak of his national strength, he could do the art of war, the Iraq-Afghanistan model. America's national strength decreased after the Iraq War and Afghanistan War, so fighting a war became unaffordable. The US had to choose another way, which is the art of subversion. The US chose to do the art of subversion in Libya, that is the Libya model. Its strength declined further, so it had to choose the Syria model. But the Syria model failed, and its power declined further again. From Iraq and Afghanistan to Libya, then to Syria, the expansion of the United States is becoming more and more difficult and their national strength is declining. But the anti-American camp is getting stronger and stronger. The U.S. power has entered the period of contraction from the period of expansion, which means that the American hegemony began to decline. If the United States makes a major mistake in decision-making during the process of the contraction of U.S. power, the U.S. may learn the art of demise. What is a major mistake in decision-making? The art of subversion failed, and the U.S. chose to do the art of assassination. Assassinating leaders of other countries without declaring war is in violation of international law and norms of international relations. Can you believe it? The U.S. becomes the same type of people as terrorist organizations. Why do terrorist organizations engage in terrorism? Because they can't win in a head-on battle. The art of assassination indicates that the power of the United States is not as strong as it used to be, so their means are getting lower and lower. Trump believes that he can stop the decline of the United States and deter the anti-hegemony countries by carrying out an assassination. Trump also believes that he can win back a world controlled by the U.S. by killing a leader. In fact, the power released by a dead Soleimani is 10 times that of a living Soleimani. Because of his sacrifice, it greatly encouraged the determination of anti-hegemony in the world. The assassination accelerated the loss of American dominance over the world. That was a big mistake. If the United States had contracted its power in a decent and orderly way, they would not have hastened the demise of their hegemony. The United States assassinated the Iranian leader, said some people. When you see that, you will be reminded that the United States is still the boss and you cannot disobey it. The U.S. can kill any country's leader he wants. What a tyrannical and barbaric act. Other countries are more afraid that no country is safe if this mad dog, the U.S., continues to dominate the world. If every country starts assassinating other countries' leaders, a full-scale espionage war is going to take place and international conferences like the G20 cannot be held. For any leader of any country may be beheaded. In the future, who dares to continue to use American high-tech products and internet products, and who dares to let Americans conduct intelligence work in their own country? Their leader may be killed by the U.S. anytime. This fear will prompt other countries in the world to clean up the American products and purge American power from their countries without exception. That's why some countries are reluctant to ban Huawei. Trump has been accusing Huawei of having backdoor on its devices which allow the Chinese government to monitor users. In fact, the reason is just the opposite. American products have a backdoor but Huawei does not. Huawei has made it clear that it is willing to sign no backdoor agreements with any country. The reason why the United States wants to ban Huawei is that if other countries choose to use Huawei, then America will no longer be able to eavesdrop people through the backdoor. German media. Huawei backdoor not found, but Cisco backdoor was found.